What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Lions Talk. Of course, welcome back. Today is Easter. I hope everybody is having a fantastic holiday. I hope everybody is enjoying some good food, is enjoying some family, and I hope everybody has a fantastic holiday weekend. Today, we are back talking some more Lions football. And as people begin to get here, as people start to roll into the live stream, I'm not sure exactly what to expect today with it being a holiday, but I will be happy for everybody that is here and everybody that wants to join and come hang out with us for a little bit to talk some Lions football. Today, as we do most days, as people start to get here, as people start to gather and get their way to the live stream, I like to have one particular topic open to talk about before people start to come and start to comment. And today we will be talking about this. This was an article that I found earlier today, and it was which team is the most likely to call the Lions to trade up for number 7 or for the 7th overall pick. Now, there are a lot of NFL teams that could be considered for this spot, right? There's a lot of NFL teams that could be looking to make their way up here. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback. There's a lot of teams that need a top weapon, a lot of teams that could trade up for a potential offensive lineman, or if they see something in one of the defensive players, they could potentially look to move up as well. I think that Carolina is a realistic option to move up. I think Denver is pretty realistic to move up. San Francisco, nope, not San Francisco, LA or New England, I think are possibilities of moving up. You have guys a little bit farther down the board. We've talked about the Bills potentially looking to move up if they want to get a top weapon for Josh Allen. You have maybe the Philadelphia Eagles look to trade back up if they want that top pick, very similarly to what Miami did a couple of days ago, very similarly to the trade the Miami Dolphins made, trading down to 12 and then trading back up to 6. If the Eagles want to trade back up to 7, I think that is very, very possible as well. The Saints, if they aren't super confident in either of their quarterbacks, they may look to move up to get that last big name quarterback off the board. And, I don't think there's really a lack of suitors. I don't think there's going to be a lack of people calling for the Detroit Lions 7th overall pick. But which team is the best? Which team is the most likely to call up to the Detroit Lions, and which team is the most likely to move up and, get the guy that they want? Who is the team that is most likely to pull the trigger and, give up as much capital as possible in order to, one, make it worth it for the Lions, but two, go up and get their player. Now, I'm going to go really quick just over here just to see every NFL team so I don't miss one. But I mean, look, you have the Detroit Lions at 7. I think Carolina could trade up, but I don't think they're the most likely. I think they are going to be happy regardless of who they get, because just like the Lions, they're going to have at least one person fall. They're going to have at least one person come and, fall to the 8th overall spot just simply because there's so much talent. Denver is a possibility. Denver is a team that may be looking to start over to quarterback. It depends on how they feel about Drew Lock. It really depends on what they think about their young quarterback that they have in the room. Had some ups and downs last year, had, some flashes of brilliance, and had some flashes of, oh my gosh, like, what is he doing? What is he thinking? So it really depends there. They could potentially look to jump Carolina for that last quarterback. If Carolina thinks the Lions are taking a quarterback, they could very much trade up just one spot as well. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the Giants look to trade up. I know they just got Kenny Galladay, but they could be looking to get that last big offensive lineman. They could be looking for a Rashawn Slater to give Danny Dimes a little bit more time and a little bit more help. They could be trading up because maybe similarly to Denver, they don't like the quarterback they have and they want to go get that Justin Fields. They want to go get that Trey Lance to, really push Daniel Jones for a top spot. I think that is super, super possible. Stephen Bates with the first comment of the day says, it depends on what we want for it. I think people are always looking. I think that's very true. Like I said, I don't think there's really a lack of teams that could be looking to trade up, right? Carolina could definitely trade up at 7. Denver could definitely trade up. They have players that they can need. Dallas even could look to trade up with their offensive line getting older and a little bit more injury prone. The Giants, they could look for an offensive lineman. LA could definitely be looking for an offensive lineman. I would doubt Minnesota moves up just because of that in division. I don't think you're going to give your division rivals a premium pick unless they really, really give you a lot. But, you go down to New England. New England is very possible if they want to move up and get a quarterback. Arizona, I see a little bit less likely, but I think that's possible as well. Probably not as likely as a lot of others, but I think still likely possible. Las Vegas could be possible. They might want to move up to get a big playmaker. They might want to move up to get Derek Carr another weapon and really try to complete that offense and, go into next season with, trying to make the playoffs after finishing 8-8 and just missing out a season ago. You have Washington. Washington, although they just made the playoffs a year ago, they're not complete. They're not a complete football team. They could look to trade up as well. Chicago, similar thing to what you saw with Minnesota, right? They're a division rival, so unless they give the house, I doubt they trade up, and I doubt the Lions accept it, but they could be looking for some pieces in the top 10. They could really, really be looking to trade up for maybe that last quarterback. They could be looking to trade up for a big-time weapon. Maybe they're looking to trade up for that last offensive lineman since their offensive line wasn't particularly great a season ago. You have Indianapolis, who is a very, very strong team, but realistically, they could use another weapon as well. So, it's possible there. One Funky Lions fan says if Vegas moves up, it would be for an O-line help. I agree. I think that would be very true. I think that's very possible that they could trade up for O-line help. They're getting rid of what? They got rid of 4 of their starting 5 last season of their offensive line, and their offensive line was really good a season ago. Their offensive line was like top of the NFL in run blocking and pass blocking, and that was a big reason Russell Wilson wanted to go to Las Vegas, was because of their offensive line being so good. But they got rid of Rodney Hudson. They got rid of Trent Brown. They got rid of, I believe, one, if not both, of their guards. And I believe they're only left right now with one of their tackles, which is not very good if you're trying to be a team that makes the playoffs consistently. I mentioned Indianapolis. They could be looking to move up for a weapon. I like Michael Pittman, but I don't really know who else they have outside of Michael Pittman for Carson Wentz to utilize. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor and that elite offensive line. But as far as weapons, I don't know how many receiving weapons that team really has. Tennessee, I would doubt. Tennessee could potentially move up maybe for like a top linebacker. I know their defense was not great a season ago. They could potentially move up to get an offensive lineman. They took an offensive lineman last year in the kid from Georgia. What's Isaiah Wilson, I think his name is. The tackle from Georgia, the right tackle, he ended up not working out. He's no longer on the team anymore. So, it's very possible they might look to move up and they take Rashawn Slater, really trying to, try to not capitalize on the unfortunate events, but they try to they try to make up for their mistake a season ago. I could see Tennessee potentially trading up for Rashawn Slater. The Jets, I think, is pretty unrealistic, but the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have a lot of holes. They lost a lot of people last year, and they have a lot of pieces to replace. They could potentially look to move up for maybe an offensive lineman, since I know they just lost one of their tackles. They could potentially move up for an offensive weapon, considering Juju is there. Or a quarterback. Maybe they don't have all the faith in the world in Dwayne Haskins and Big Ben anymore. That's possible as well. One Pride 40 says only 3 weeks until draft day. I know I'm incredibly excited for it. I'm super excited to see who the Lions are going to go draft. I am super excited to see everything that is going on in this Lions organization. And I mean, as fun as free agency has been, as far as all of these news and rumors have been, I am excited for the draft. I could not be more excited for it. One Funky Lions fan says Indy brought back T.Y. and are sitting pretty for Bateman. I don't see them moving up. That's true. They did bring back T.Y. T.Y. Hilton isn't really the same player he used to be, but I think it's possible. Rashad Bateman, I would expect to go about that, that was at 21. Yeah. I would expect him to go about that 21 range. So, I think that's probably fair. But, they could potentially still look to trade up if they want, if they think that difference between a Devontae Smith and a Rashad Bateman is that much. I don't personally think that, but everybody evaluates him differently. Stephen Bates, are we more likely to want to trade back? Why wouldn't the Lions have their eye on a particular top trade or top player just as much as any other team? I'm sure they have their eye on players that they want, and I'm sure the Lions have an idea of if they are stuck at 7, if they have to be at 7. But trading back gives them so many more opportunities to get so much more talent in the building. Whereas if you pick at the 7th overall spot, you get one chance, you get one shot that this player is going to be good. If you trade back for 3, 4, 5 picks, you have 5 chances. You have 5 opportunities. Is it Steven? Sorry. But if you trade back, for 4 or 5 picks, that's 4 or 5 opportunities to get a really good player. That's more opportunity to get more talent in the building. So, I'm sure they have their eyes on some players. I'm sure they have some ideas. I'm sure they have guys that they're eyeing. I know they've been to, Penny Sewell's pro day. I know they've been to Rashad Slater's pro day. I know they went to the Bama pro day both times. I know they went to Trevor Lawrence's pro day. I know they went to every quarterback pro day. So, I think they have an eye, and I think they're really evaluating the guys in the top. But trading down, I think, gives them just so many more opportunities to add talent throughout the entire roster versus just one spot. Stephen Bates also says, yes, we have a lot of needs, but been pretty active in free agency, so not desperate per se for more picks. I would disagree. I would say the Lions signing all these one-year contracts are just fillers for them to fill in the draft, right? They have 4 wide receivers in this draft class, or they have 4 wide receivers from this free agent class, but at the same time, you have I just totally blanked on what I was saying. What? Okay, so you have all of these wide receivers, right? These 4 wide receivers from the free agency, but they're all only on 1-year deals. They're all going to be gone by next year. So I believe the Lions are going to try to replace some of those guys in the draft. Now, of course, they're not going to spend 4 of their 6 picks on wide receivers, but picking 1 or 2 wide receivers, especially if they trade back to acquire more picks, is not the most unrealistic thing because they have all these guys on expiring contracts next season. So it would make sense for them to fill the holes now this season, let those young guys develop, and then once those expiring contracts are gone, if the player played well, then maybe you re-sign him, and if not, then you go with the young guys. One Pride 40 says they were at everybody's pro day. That's true. I mean, they were at a lot of pro days. I'm just saying, they are obviously doing their due diligence. They're obviously going to all these different pro days, scouting all these players at the top. So I'm sure they have an idea of who they want to get. I'm sure they have an idea, but I don't necessarily think that's a guarantee that they're going to be picking somebody at that spot. Funk, I think they are drafting Darisaw. I hope not, man. I really hope. Oh, you talking about the Vegas? Yeah. Yep. I would disagree. If we move back to 15 or further, we should be able to get at least a first for next year. And the defensive guys next year are looking really good too. So being that Holmes and Campbell have said they are building for the future, it makes sense. I agree. I think if you trade down more than, what we were at 7. So if we were to trade down 9 spots, which I think is exactly what the 49ers traded up, was 9 spots. I mean, you saw exactly what the 49ers gave up to get to the top 10. You saw exactly what they did to move from 12 to 3. And of course, you wouldn't be moving up to the 3rd pick, but you'd still be getting a top 10 talent. You'd still be getting a top 10 pick. And to move up that far, it's going to cost you a lot. I mean, the 49ers gave up 3 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick to move up 9 spots to pick number 3. I think the Lions could see a similar return. Maybe they get 2 first-round picks in the 3rd. Maybe they get 2 first-round picks in the 2nd. Maybe it's not. I don't think it's going to be quite as much as the Niners gave up. However, I think it is going to be a lot. I think they're going to give up a lot if they are going to move up. And I think if a team is desperate to move up, the Lions are going to get every single penny out of it. Stephen Bates says, their very top prospects are more guaranteed usually than getting more medium picks. For average players, pull the trigger with 7 if they really are high on someone. If not, obviously trade back. I mean, you think that, right? You would think that they're more guaranteed in the top 10, but that's not even true. I mean, you look at how many busts are from the 1st round. How many top 10 players were busts? I mean, you got, Josh Rosen. He was a top 10 player. You have Trent Richardson. You have Jamarcus Russell. You have Ryan Leaf. You have, RG3 arguably is a bust at the 3rd overall pick. These are all top 10, top 5 players that never, ever panned out for their team. So, I mean, the idea that a pick in the top 7 is a more secure draft pick is not necessarily true. And that's why I'm thinking we go trade back and get more opportunities within the top 100. So we still get good players. We still get good talent, but we have more of an opportunity so that if we miss on one of those players, we still have 4 more opportunities to get the pick right and get a really, really good player. And honestly, if you give me the chance between the 7th overall pick or 4 picks inside the top 100, I'll take the 4 picks inside the top 100 every single time. One Pride 40 says, yes, if we don't go quarterback this year, they might need to wait 2 years. I wouldn't disagree with that. I don't think the quarterback class next year is bad per se, but I don't think it's necessarily the greatest class. I would say this year's class is definitely better, but 2023 might be an interesting quarterback class. We'll have to wait and see on that one. The Colts are drafting Darius. So let's put. I mean, the Colts kind of have a really good offensive line, don't they? Unless they lost somebody that I missed, but I'm pretty sure they had like a really, really good offensive line. One funky Lion fan says, "Oh, we should wait till 2023 if we don't go quarterback this year, and we should try to stack picks for 2023." I would agree with that. I would agree. I think 2023. I think is where you're going to see the Lions become really competitive. I think that's the year where you see them really take off. I think next year they're going to play okay. I would say I'm thinking 7 to 9 wins. I think is what to expect from this Lions team next year. And then I think come 2022, you're going to have a lot of picks. You're going to have a lot of cap space. And I think you're going to see a lot of improvement. And then I think come 2023, you're going to see a real competitive Lions team that it's not like, oh, they could have made the playoffs. They could have not. It's not like, oh, they luckily got into the playoffs. It's going to be a Lions team that is dangerous. It's going to be a Lions team that is going to make a lot of noise in the NFC. And whether they're going to win a Super Bowl, I don't know. But I think come 2023, you're going to see a really, really good Lions team take the field and a team that is incredibly dangerous for anybody to walk into and for anybody to take on. One Pride 40 says, we already have 2 that year as well to trade up for our guy. That's possible as well. That's very possible. If the Lions are looking really good and they feel like they are that one player away, if they feel like they're that DJ Ungalale, they feel like they're that quarterback away from being successful and being great, then I think that, you see them maybe get those 2 first-round picks, maybe something else, move up and go get their quarterback, right? I mean, just because I don't think they're going to be a number 1 overall pick kind of a team in a couple years, but, if they feel like they're that one quarterback away, if they feel like DJ whatever. And they feel like the quarterback out of Clemson is the best option. They feel like he's going to put them over the top. Then you got to take that guy. I got to work on my pronunciations. We have the Galladay comp pick along with the good Stafford picks already for the future. Building/players, do we really need that many more picks the next couple of years? Yeah, we absolutely do. We absolutely need picks because you still need 1, if not 2 offensive linemen. You need at least 2, if not 3 wide receivers long term. I would say you need at least 1 more running back because Kerryon's contract is ending this year because, Jamal Williams only has 2 years left on his contract. So that right there, that's 5 players on the defense, or 5 or 6 players on the offense that still need to be filled out position-wise. On the defense, you still need a defensive tackle or 2. You still need an edge rusher. You still need at least 2 linebackers. You need at least 3 cornerbacks, at least 2 safeties. Like, that's not going to get all filled. And I know some of that's going to be from free agency, but, realistically, the Lions still need a right tackle. The Lions still need a right guard, potentially, if they don't have confidence in Big V. They still need a wide receiver, if not 2 wide receivers for the expiring contracts next year. They still need a potential backup tight end to T.J. Hawkinson because I don't know how the other guys are going to play out. So what? That's 2 offensive linemen, 2 to 3 wide receivers, a potential backup tight end, a potential replacement running back for Kerryon Johnson. That's 7 picks on the offense. We only have 6 picks this season. We only have 6 picks this draft. And then you go down to the defense, right? You have your defensive line. Michael Brockers is 30. You're going to need to replace him. I like John Pennicini, but John Pennicini is not the only guy that is going to be on the field, right? You need at least 1, if not 2 more defensive tackles. You need likely 1 more edge rusher, depending on if guys can stay healthy, depending on if, Julian Okwara pans out, depending on if, Austin Bryant pans out and can stay healthy. But, then you go to the linebackers. Your only linebackers right now are Jamie Collins. You have Alex Anzalone. You have Sean Dion Hamilton, and you have Jelani Tavai. Those are your 4 linebackers. That's not a good linebacking core. You go to your secondary, you have Jeff Okudah, you have Amani Oruwariye, Mike Ford, and Cornelder. Those are your 4 cornerbacks. That's all you have on the roster. You need at least 2, if not 3 more players that will be on the roster for an entire season. You go to safety, Tracy Walker is the only starting caliber safety in that room. There are only 3 other safeties there, and that is Will Harris, who is not a starting quality safety. We've seen that multiple times. You have Jalen Elliott, who's a rookie who never played a snap in the NFL yet, as well as Bobby Price, who I actually like both of those rookies. I like both Jalen Elliott and Bobby Price, but they haven't played a single snap yet, and I'm not going to put a lot of faith and a lot of trust into safeties that I haven't seen play in the NFL, especially with Jalen Elliott being the fact that he's never been the best athlete on the field. You look realistically, get as many picks as you can because there are a lot of holes to fill in this team still. I could see the Colts going with O-line, but I see them getting one more weapon. I see the same thing. I could see realistically them going with an offensive lineman potentially, but I think it's more likely that they get a weapon. Two ain't enough if you want to move from the teens to the top three. That's true. That's very true. That's very, very true. I've seen this name pop up a couple times. Grayson McCall. I've not seen a lot about him, but obviously as the years go on, I guess you could say I will definitely be watching him a bit more because I've seen one probably 40 mention him a lot. So who you pounding the table for in this draft? Honestly, I'm pounding for us to trade down to the teens and potentially get Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. That would be my guy. If we're stuck at 7, I'm pounding the table for Rashad Slater, and I'm really crossing my fingers that Penei Sewell falls. I don't think it happens, but that would be my perfect pick for the Lions would be getting lucky enough to grab Penei Sewell at 7. My second pick after that, with obviously that likely not happening, I would say Rashawn Slater to complete the offensive line. It makes the most sense. We can get a lot of free agency, not just from the draft. We got Tate and Marvin Jones for a good time before now. Yeah, but you don't win championships by building through free agency. I mean, you look who was the last team that's built their team solely through free agency and won anything. I mean, you could say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they signed Brady. That's the one piece that put them over the top, and they were already a really good young team. I mean, even when they were 7-9 with Jameis Winston throwing 30 interceptions, that team was really good, and they needed one player. And, that's what free agent does for you. That's what free agency is for, is getting that last puzzle piece. It's not for building your roster. The Lions can't build their roster through free agency and expect to win because nobody does that. There's not been a single NFL team to win a Super Bowl that built a majority of their roster through free agency. One Prep40 says flung 2023 class is deep. Try top 6. Fair enough. Top 5 maybe. That's fair enough. I mean, I haven't looked a ton at the 2023 class yet, but it looks really good from what I've seen. Can we all just pray Pitts falls to 7 to the Lions and somehow Tevin Jenkins falls to 41? See, that's my thing though, is like I'm very confident in saying that Tevin Jenkins is not going to fall to the Detroit Lions. I'm very confident in saying that he will not be there at 41. I don't see it. I don't see him getting out of the 20s. And if he does get out of the 20s, there's almost no way he gets past the 30s. Like, I'm very confident that he will not be there. If he was there, I would be happy with it. If Pitts is there, Pitts wouldn't be my number 1 pick, but Pitts would be probably my number 2 weapon. I would take Jamar Chase first, and then I would take Kyle Pitts as my second weapon. So if we were to take Kyle Pitts, I would not be mad at all. But I'm very positive that Tevin Jenkins will be there. If he's there and we get Tevin Jenkins at 41, I will be ecstatic. Pitts can likely fall to us. I think that's going to happen. I think Pitts will fall, but I don't know for sure. 2023 looks deep right now, but a lot can change by then. That's true as well. I think the Falcons go QB and Bengals takes too well. I don't think the Falcons go quarterback, honestly. I really don't. Looking at the way that team is structured, I mean, you got Matt Ryan on a ridiculous contract. Like, there's no way they move off him for the next 2 seasons. And Julio was in his 30s, and Calvin Ridley is on his last year of a contract asking for a lot of money. I think they're going to go with the weapon personally. I think they're going to try to replace Julio Jones. They're going to let him walk, or they're going to cut him, and then they're going to have to keep Julio Jones, and they're going to have to let Calvin Ridley walk, because I don't think you can pay Matt Ryan and Julio what you're paying them and still give Calvin Ridley the contract that he deserves. So I think they take a weapon to future proof, but that's just kind of how I'm seeing it. And then I 100% agree with you. I think the Bengals take Penei Sewell. That just seems like the most sense. With Joe Burrow coming off his injury, that's all I see happening. Now, Stephen Bates says, that was wide receiver. We just picked up Williams at running back too. We have been picking up good young players in positions we need, then add on during the draft. Need a healthy mix of vets and young players to develop. Yeah, but all of those players are on 1-year contracts. All of those players are going to be gone next year. Tyrell Williams is not going to be here next year. Brashad Perryman is not going to be here next year unless he's re-signed. You got the same thing with Khalif Raymond and Damian Ratley. Yeah, they're on the team now. They're young, good players, but they're not going to be here next season because the way Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are structuring these contracts, they're trying to get the younger players in. They're trying to get younger, better talent in the building that they can develop, and they're trying to get their draft guys in the building. And these guys that are getting 1-year contracts, honestly, they're placeholders. That's what they are. They're placeholders on the team. And if they ball out, if they do something really, really special and they are able to do that, then that is, good for them and they can stay on the team. But honestly, all I see for them right now is placeholders. That's all I got. Funk, who are you pounding the table for in this draft? I would be very, very curious on that one. Remember the Philly Dream Team? That was nothing but frauds. That's not even true, though. I mean, you got Carson Wentz who carried that team. That was a draft pick. A lot of their offensive line was draft picks. You have their, Zach Ertz was a draft pick by them. A lot of their defensive line was drafted by them. That's not even necessarily true. NFL RT did a mock. I think we would all be happy with we fall to 15 and got JOK, a 2021 third and a first for 2020. I would be ecstatic with that. If that trade happens, I would be super, super happy with it. Sam Hudson, Brady, Christensen, Dylan Rudness will all be there at 41. That's possible. It's possible. I wouldn't doubt it. No, I said a healthy mix. Nobody won championships from drafting rookies with lack of experience and veteran leadership. I don't disagree with that, but a lot of our guys are – what veteran wide receiver do we have? Our most veteran wide receiver is 27. It's not like we have this super old veteran that can teach everybody everything. That's what coaches are for. That's why you have coaches. It's not the player's job to mentor. It's the coach's job to teach. And with the wide receiver coaches being there, I think it's going to be just fine without some of those guys. Who we miss out on? I don't know. Tevin Jenkins won't get past KC in the first round. If that late, I agree with that. That's exactly where I think he's going to go. Well, that's exactly how late I think he's going to make it. I think they go QB. They've been goofy not to the Falcons. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't think so, but that's just me. I don't see it that way, but it could possibly happen. I wouldn't doubt that it does happen, but I wouldn't be shocked if it didn't either. No, it was back when they had Vic. Oh. I got you. I mean, I wasn't even around back then, but that was a long time ago. And I don't think they won a Super Bowl back then. Did they? The Eagles didn't win a Super Bowl before that, but One Funky Lions fan says, go Lions if Tevin Jenkins makes it 31. Rumor has it KC wants to move out of the first, and the Lions could be the lucky team to move up, and it wouldn't cost too much. That's possible. I haven't heard a whole lot about KC wanting to move out, but if that's possible, if Tevin Jenkins makes it to 31, I would be shocked. I would be shocked if he made it to 31, and if the Lions trade up, I don't think they'd have to give up a whole lot to move from 41 to 31. 10 spots, that seems like a lot, but I don't think they'd need a whole lot to move up to 31 from their second round pick. If they move up for a decent price, if they move up and get it where they need to be, I would not be mad at that. I would not be mad at all. What's up? Luke G's Field Review says, preach, writer. It's not the job of the players to mentor. It's the job of the coaches to teach. But that's what it is, right? And everybody kind of has that thing where it's, the players just to teach. But everybody has this, idea that these mentor players, these older players are going to come in and be mentors, and they're going to come in and be, these great teachers to these players, but that's not their job. They're not here to teach. They're here to play football. So, you look at that and it's, it's not the player's job to teach. And I get that you need some veteran wide receivers. Do I think veteran players are important? I absolutely do, because you need some veterans. You can't have all rookies and you can't have all guys that have never experienced anything. Experience, especially playoff experience, is really big for any NFL team. But veterans aren't there to teach. Veterans are there to be leaders. Veterans are there to, steady the ship. So realistically, that's not their job to do. And that's why I don't think we need super old veteran wide receivers to teach, because that's not their job. Ryan's contract is done in 2 years. Take a quarterback now. I don't know. I think it's possible, but like I said, I think they're going to try to future-proof with a wide receiver because, you have Matt Ryan for 2 more years, and it's not like you can move off of him anyway. Julio Jones, what is he, 32? he's already on a huge contract. If you get a quarterback, you're probably not going to be able to pay Calvin Ridley. You're definitely not going to be able to keep Julio Jones. And, I just think that's going to put them in a really bad cap situation. But it's possible. I think if they don't take a wide receiver, if they don't take a weapon, I think they take a quarterback. I think that's probably their second option. But that's how I see it. I very much see where you're coming from, One Pride 40. I very much see what you're talking about. Oh, I know it's just not realistic, and it's DB to use cap space for a mentor, hire him as a coach. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, that makes the most sense. That makes the most sense. Stephen Bates says it's not the player's job, but it's why a lot of them are brought in. Like AP with Swift last year. I mean, I don't necessarily think that's the case, but I mean, I think he was brought in to play running back. He wasn't brought in to necessarily just be the mentor, or else he wouldn't have started week 1. He wouldn't have started all the way to like week 6 or 7, whatever it was. He wouldn't have done that if he was just brought in to mentor. So I disagree with that. You see it more with QBs. QBs, I think, is fair. QBs, I think, is fair with a veteran quarterback, but with wide receivers, you don't really need a bunch of veteran guys in there to teach, and those veteran guys in the mentor. Competent. I was like, what? Competent coaches will bring in players to help develop young talent. No, competent coaches will develop that talent for you. The coaches don't bring in the players. Coaches don't do that. Coaches are supposed to coach the players and develop them properly. It's not the job of the veterans. It's the job of the coach to do that. But the vet players should help kids. It's not their job, but good teammates help out young kids. Yeah, but good teammates, I mean, it doesn't matter if they're 10-year veterans or 1-year veterans. Like, good teammates will help out anyway, but that doesn't mean that they should be brought in to mentor these guys. They should be brought in because they're the best players for the job. They should be brought in because they're the best players to do their job. They're the best people at what they do, and they're going to help the Lions be successful. So that's how I see it. Luigi's Field Review says AP came in to play football and give Swift an example of how to work, not teach him. AP has a family and needs money as well. Fair enough. That's very, very true. CJ says quarterback. If you're talking about quarterback for the Lions, I don't see it. Brett said it's best. I am not helping no one take food for my family. There you go. I mean, that's exactly how and at the end of the day, it's a business, right? At the end of the day, the NFL is a business for a lot of players. I saw a thing where it's like a lot of football players don't even love the game necessarily. They just happen to be really, really good at it, or they used to love the game and they just don't anymore, but they're really, really good at it. So they're making money for their family, right? It's a business. It's a job. It's not something where you just show up and you have a good time with your buddies. Like, yes, locker rooms are close. Yes, locker rooms are supposed to be, this closely bonded unit, and they're all supposed to care for each other and help each other. But at the end of the day, it is a business. At the end of the day, these guys are trying to get a competitive advantage over one another so they can get paid and make money. One Pride 40 says Lawrence at 1, Wilson at 2, Lance at 3, Fields at 4, Sewell at 5, Pitts or Chase at 7, Pitts or Chase at 6, 7 question mark. I think at that point you go Rashawn Slater. That's what I've been saying. That's what I'm going to stay with until the pick is in. One Funky Lion fan says, does AP really need money? Yes, he does. Yes, AP really needs money. I'll really need money. Everybody needs money. Everybody needs money, man. I mean, AP has made a lot of money throughout his career, but I mean, there's a reason a lot of NFL players go broke after they leave the league, because they're so used to that lifestyle that they're going to keep spending. And in order to live the lifestyle that AP lives now, you got to keep earning money. Yeah, AP owes $8 million in a judgment against it. I mean, there you go. Funk, who you pounding the table for? Come on. Let's think about it. I do want to mention this because somebody asked it at the last. Somebody asked this at the last Lions Talk. I have been approved for super chats. I have been approved for all of that for the donations on the live stream. It's monetized. If you guys are nice enough, guys are kind enough to do that, then I'd be super appreciative. Of course, nobody is forced. Nobody should be ever feel pressured to do so. But I think it was One Pride 40 last time that asked about it, so I did want to mention that as well. If you want to, if you feel generous enough, then that's very fair. But again, nobody should ever feel pressured to do so. But I wanted to mention that because I know there were a couple people last time asking. CJ says AP blew all of his money. Yeah. You never had a multi-million-dollar job, totally different situation. I mean, not really. A job is a job. Like, you spend money, you still need your money. And NFL players live a very, very nice lifestyle. At least the big time ones do. So they need money, man. AP is not, this like billionaire that just doesn't have to work for the rest of his life. Like, Adrian Peterson still needs that money. Adrian Peterson still needs to work. And like Luke said earlier, like, he was brought in to play football and be an example. He wasn't necessarily brought in to teach DeAndre Swift what to do. He was brought here to teach him work ethic. He was not brought here to teach him what to do on the field. He was brought here to set an example for people, not to mentor. Those are two very different things. One Pride 40 says, Funk, you did not answer my question. At 7, trade back for Slayton, O-line beast. Yeah. You mean Slater? I think that's what you mean. But yeah, I agree. Well, here's the answer. One Funky Lions fan says, I am pounding against people, not for them. Parsons, Smith, Waddle. Honestly, if we take any of those 3 players, I would be disappointed. Especially considering Parsons is going to be there well into the teens. He might even be there into the mid-20s. Like, Parsons is going to be there for a while. I read the comment down. Smith and Waddle, I really don't want them. And every time I see a person mock a wide receiver of the Lions and it's not Jamar Chase, I get frustrated because it's really just not – it's not something the Lions can afford. And I called it a luxury pick yesterday, and I'm going to continue with that. Like, a wide receiver or skill positions in general are luxury positions. You don't win with a wide receiver. We had a Hall of Fame wide receiver for almost a decade. We didn't win anything because wide receiver is only one position, and wide receiver does not win you football games. We had the greatest wide receiver – or not the greatest receiver. We had the greatest running back in NFL history on our team for 9 seasons. And we went to the playoffs once. That was the last time we won a playoff game, but we had the best running back in NFL history with a really solid team around him. And we didn't win anything. Those skill positions are luxury picks. You build in the trenches, right? You build the trenches first. You don't. Like, that's my big reason as to why I don't want a wide receiver. And Pitts, I think, could be maybe a little different because he's a tight end. He can block. He can do a little bit more for you. But even Pitts, I'm taking him way below the offensive line. Like, for me, like, as if you were to make like a tier list of what I think would be the best, like, trade back would be the very best option. Second best, like right below that, would be taking the best offensive lineman, whether that be Pitts or whether that be Slater or Sewell. But then, like, way below that, like 2-3 tiers below that, is everything else. And the very worst thing would be taking a weapon. And the very worst thing the Lions could do would be take a wide receiver. Like I said, Pitts is a little different, but even then, Pitts is below Rashawn Slater for me. He's below Penny Sewell. And Pitts is the first weapon I'll take, but still a weapon is the last thing I would take. So he's the best of the worst in that case. Would you pound the table for Pitts? I wouldn't. I would not be mad at Pitts, but that's not a winning move for me if I'm the Lions. One part 4 says I'm pounding the table for Pitts. That's fair enough. I like Pitts as a player. I just don't think he's necessarily the best player for the job. I can see Parsons going to the Giants. I could see that. I could see that as well. I think, yeah, I could see the Patriots. I could see the Patriots as well, but I could see the Giants going Parsons. I think that's possible, especially if they're passing on Isaiah Simmons a year ago. I feel like it's a reach for Slater. It is not a reach. Top 7 for Slater is far from a reach. Trust me. Writer, preach the church is open for those Red Pill fans who are accepting these facts. Hey, I'm just here to tell you the facts. I'm here to tell you how I see it, and that's exactly how I see it. I'm not gonna tell you what I don't believe in. If I say something, it's because I think it's what's best for the team and what I think is best. So that's why Slater is my pick. Me and James Willis are on this same exact page with this one. Slater would be my pick. I think he's far better than anything else that's going to be at the 7th overall pick, unless it's Penny Sewell. Then you got a real big argument, but I don't think both of them fall to 7. I think you take whichever one is left. At Writer Spin Facts says go Lions. I appreciate that. Stephen Bates says AP was brought in only to mentor. Nobody said that, but it helps younger players develop to bring veterans, and Steph knows that when they make them moves. Swift said AP helped him. Yeah, he might have helped him, but that's not why he was brought in. AP wasn't brought in to be a mentor. AP was brought in to play football and help us win football games. And did he do that? I mean, no, not really. I mean, I thought he was a solid running back for us, but he didn't really help us win football games, and that's why the Lions let him walk. Like, the Lions are likely going to bring in another running back this offseason, whether it be in UDFA, whether it be in free agency, or whether it be a late draft pick. They're likely going to bring in another running back because you can't go into a 17-game season with 3 running backs, especially when DeAndre Swift didn't play a full season last year, especially when Kerryon Johnson has his injury history. You can't roll into the season with 2 running backs that haven't played a full season in the NFL yet. And Jamal Williams, like, you got to draft at least one more. You got to get at least one more. So if that's the case, why not bring back Adrian Peterson to mentor him again? It's because Adrian Peterson didn't do his job the first time. And as much as I like Adrian Peterson on the Lions, he didn't do enough to come back. One Pride 4 says, unless it's Pitts. Pitts would be a headache to deal with. That's true. Pitts would be, it would make the Lions offense incredibly fun. It would make the Lions offense incredibly fun. Pitts helps both with the run, the pass game. That's true. That's why Pitts is my number one weapon. That's why if the Lions are going to take a weapon, I want it to be Kyle Pitts, because honestly, him and Hawkinson would be a nightmare. And as much as I don't think it's necessarily going to help the Lions win the most football games, it's going to make them a tough offense to defend. It's going to make them, especially if Anthony Lynn can use them correctly, it will make them a incredibly difficult offense to defend and will make them super, super dangerous. So that's why he's my number one weapon. But yeah, I agree with that. That was just an easy example. The point is there has to be a healthy mix of vets and rookies. Yeah, but the veterans don't necessarily have to be like super old veterans. They can be second, third-year players, and they can share the same exact experience, right? I mean, as long as you have a couple of guys in there that have been to the playoffs, it doesn't matter if they're, 10-year NFL vets or 2 or 3-year NFL vets. They're going to have similar experiences. And honestly, I don't think you need that many veterans, right? You need 1 or 2 maybe. And that's what the Lions have. They are going to likely keep Tyrell Williams if he doesn't play incredibly bad next year. And other than that, I'm thinking everybody walks next year. The Lions are going to build through the draft because that's the winning formula. Funk Pitts is not much of a blocker. I think he's a better blocker than what people give him credit for, and I think he's very willing to block. He just needs to work on it a little bit. He needs to fine-tune some things a little bit before I would say he's a true blocker. But I've seen that he's willing to do it, which is at least a good sign. But he wouldn't be asked to block in line by himself. That's where we get TJ and Hill. That's another thing too, right? It's like he's possible, he can do it, but it's not necessarily, I think, something he's great at, but I think he's willing to do it. And like one funky Lion fan says, you have Pitts or you have TJ Hawkinson and Josh Hill there to do it. If you need an inline blocker, TJ or not, I keep reading the wrong thing. If you need an inline blocker, Pitts is not going to be that guy necessarily to do it. But if you need him to do it, if you need him to step up, I think he's more than willing to do so for the Lions or for any team that drafts him. Like my Super Bowl cup. Luke's busy. Lions need not to worry about offense if they not willing to complete the offensive line. It's fair. Again, like you win through the offensive line. You win in the trenches. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs, before injuries, had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. You have the Buffalo Bills, kept in Josh Allen incredibly clean. You have the Green Bay Packers, had a really, really good offensive line last season. Is it a coincidence those were the final 4 teams in the NFL? You have Cleveland has a really good offensive line. Baltimore has a really good offensive line. New Orleans has a really good offensive line. LA, less so, but still has a solid offensive line. Pittsburgh had a decent O-line last season. Tennessee, solid offensive line. Indianapolis, really good offensive line. That all those teams made the playoffs for a reason. And I can guarantee you it's not all because of their skill positions and their flashy plays. Why is Fitz a free agent? I think Fitz is going to retire, but that's besides the point. He should be an ideal mentor, yet they said it's been fun. I mean, yeah, that's true. And they have a lot of young wide receivers on that team as well. But we're not asking him to be a blocker. That's true as well. Jimmy Graham wasn't a blocker, but he made plays. That's true as well. That's very, very true. One fucking Lion fan says, Luke, no one is saying to not get O-line help. You just can't see the fact that this is the deepest O-line draft in years, and you haven't and have your draft first with Slater, and that's okay. But I mean, yeah, it's a good offensive line class, but if like Rashawn Slater and Penny Sewell, I think are the top two. I think Tevin Jenkins, I actually missed on this yesterday. I'll admit that I was wrong on this one. I do think Tevin Jenkins is like that one step behind them. I don't think he's quite as good as Slater and Sewell, but I think he's right behind. But after that, I really see a drop off. After that, like even the kid out of NDSU, I don't see on the same level as Tevin Jenkins. Like he might be able to develop into a starter eventually, but those are the only three guys that I really see stepping in and being day one, like competent, really, really good starting tackles in the NFL. And that's why they're all going to go in the first round. And that's why I think you take a tackle in the first round, especially if you're at 7, because you're not going to get Tevin Jenkins in the second round. You might not even get the kid from NDSU in the second round. So, I mean, at that point, you're going to get Elijah Moore in the second round. You're going to get Rondale Moore in the second round. You're going to get a bunch of people in the second round. Leatherwood is okay as well. Leatherwood is fine, but he's not on the same level as those top 3. He's not. He's not on the same level. I see a lot of flaws with him. I'm not actually the biggest fan of Leatherwood. You know, Stephen Bates says, that's what I said. We got like Tate and Marvin Jones. They were only a few years in the league. A vet doesn't mean a really old. They can bring in free agent vets that are still young but they have those guys now. Like they're not going to bring in more people because they have a couple of veteran guys. And by the time they get wide receivers in the building, by the time they draft more wide receivers, Quintez Cephas is going to be a veteran. You know, Geronimo Allison is a veteran. You know, you have Tyrell Williams, who is a veteran who they're likely going to keep. Like, they don't need to bring in more veterans, more free agent guys, because by the time these young players develop, they're going to have these veterans. They're going to have Quintez as a veteran. They're going to have Geronimo as a veteran. They're going to have these guys. They're sure already in the building, but you don't bring in more free agent wide receivers just to mentor players. Like, that's not how it is. That's not how it works. That's not how you build a winning team. Fitz is contemplating retirement. That's true. Luke says, how is this the deepest O-line class? Name me 33 O-linemen that are surefire. I mean, 33 is a lot. 33 is a lot. What about Leatherwood from Bama? Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of Leatherwood, but I think he's okay, but I don't think he's quite on the same level. 33. Lol, name me a class that had as many. Come on, man, be realistic. Yeah, 33 is a lot. I don't know where he got that number from, but that is a lot of offensive linemen. But like last year was stacked at offensive linemen. Last year was very, very top heavy, and I thought was relatively deep. I thought, you know, obviously the top tackles, you had Tristan Wirfs, who was really good. You had Tristan Wirfs went to the Buccaneers. You had Jedrick Wills went to the Browns. There was one more. There was Mekhi Becton went to the Jets. Those were like the top 3. And those were all really good. But Jonah Jackson was really solid. He was in the 3rd round. We haven't seen Logan Stenberg, but he, I think, has some potential, still has some future. So, I mean, honestly, I don't know if I'd say it's the deepest, but it's just, this one's pretty good. What's up? What's good, Lions fam? How we doing today, Joey? 2 times. How we doing? Joey, what's good, my guy? How you doing? How you doing? I can name 40 wide receivers who can be day one starters. I don't know about 40, but there's a lot. There's a lot. I mean, if we just go to the draft network. Actually, that one's not very good. I'm just going to go to PFN because that's the one I always use. If we go to PFN mock draft, like, there's a lot of good wide receivers in this class. And compared to anything else, it's really not comparable. It really isn't all that comparable. And I'll make it bigger for you guys. And let me know if you can see it or not. But, like, you go to offensive tackles, Penny Sewell is really good. He's a day one starter. Rashawn Slater, really, really good. Christian Darrisaw, I think he's okay. I don't think he's quite on the same level of them. And I would actually put Darrisaw and I'd put Cosme a tier below Jenkins. You know, I'd put them on the same tier as Leatherwood and Dylan Radness. But, like, honestly, like, Liam Eichenberg is not the greatest player. Jalen Mayfield is not the greatest player. I don't think he's going to be a solid day one starter. I don't think Spencer Brown is a solid day one starter. I think the only guys you get day one that are real, like true first round talent, like day one starters, I think are Penny Sewell, Rashawn Slater, Tevin Jenkins. Samuel Cosme, I don't see it. I really, really don't. I've watched him. I've tried watching him a couple of times. I really don't see it. Christian Darrisaw, I think, is okay. I think he's solid. I think him and Leatherwood and probably Ruiz or Radness are on the same level, but I don't see them being like true top day one starters. Joey 2 times says one Pride 40 was good. Not the same conversation, dude. You like reaching sometimes. I mean, but honestly, there's 1, 2, 3, maybe Darrisaw is 4. 4 starting tackles day one that you start, you plug and play, and you're totally fine. Wide receivers, Jamar Chase, day one plug and play. Jalen Waddle, day one plug and play. Devontae Smith, day one plug and play. Rashad Bateman, Terrence Marshall Jr., Kadarius Toney, Elijah Moore, Rondale Moore, Daimi Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Amari Rogers, Nico Collins, Dwayne Eskridge, Tylan Wallace, Tutu Atwell. Let's see. Demetric Felton will get playing time. Shai Smith will get playing time. You have Daz Newsome will get playing time. You have, let's see, Cornell Powell will get playing time. Tamarion Terry will get playing time. All of these players at wide receiver, this wide receiver class is so incredibly deep. All of those guys will make impact game one. Game one, they will make impact. Stephen Bates says, right, that's why I'm saying we don't need 15 picks every day when we can bring in people like that. But why would you get a second-year starter in free agency when you could get a wide receiver in the draft that you could develop and that it just doesn't make sense. Like, why would you bring in a bunch of free agents when you have a bunch of picks to fill stuff out with? And if you get veteran players, then you still got to re-sign them a couple years later. Whereas if you get draft picks, you have them for 4 years. Like, they're on your team and you can get the guys you want exactly. Free agency, I feel like, is much harder than the draft because players have a choice at that point. But that's just my opinion. That's why we brought in staff with good draft history. Yeah, exactly, because they're going to try to build through the draft. Rondell Moore, second round. Yep, I agree. Luke in the building. Yes, he is here and he is active. Luke is going live later too. I don't know. I usually take weekends off to spend with family. I can respect that. Plus, we not drafting guard 7th unless it's Quentin Nelson. Yeah. Yep. Unless it's Quentin Nelson could go first overall. Anybody else, not really the same thing. Some Lions fans just want to be the worst to first team this year and forget the new regime has said they are building for the future. I agree. And when you build for the future, you build through the draft. That's basically the same thing. Terrence Marshall and Devontae Smith. If Devontae Smith has adequate size and declares as a junior instead of a senior, fair enough. And I think Terrence Marshall is okay. I don't think he's quite the receiver. I don't think he has quite the technical skills. I don't think he's quite as technically refined. And I don't think he's quite the wide receiver that Devontae Smith was, but he's very, very good. And like I said, he in any other wide receiver class would probably be a top 3 wide receiver. But here, Jamar Chase is going to go ahead of him. Jalen Waddle is going to go ahead of him. Devontae Smith, Rashad Bateman are all going to go ahead of him. Like, Kadarius Toney might even go ahead of him. Ryder, if you want me to join for a few, I will. Sure, I will send you that link right now. Give me 2 seconds. I will share that with you. So we will Control V. We'll go over to Twitter real quick, and we will, as it loads. So yeah, I'll join. You can come on for sure. Hold up. Give me like 2 seconds and I will invite you. Twitter's being very, very slow. G. Field review. All right. I'll wait for that to come up for a second. I just saw somebody else's tweet. Lions waived Kevin Strong. That happened today? I didn't know that. So there is that. All right. I sent you the link if you would like to join. So there's always that. But I mean, like, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. There it is. All right. Don, what's good, boss? Joey, how's it all going? Luke and Ryder, let's go. I enjoy talking football with Luke. He's a smart guy. He is a smart guy. I don't know what that notification is, but that's okay. So if Luke wants to join, he's very more than welcome to do so, because I know he's about to come in and spit facts. You have to balance, though, is all I was saying. You are saying you want the team mostly of rookies, not necessarily mostly of rookies. I want them mostly of drafted players. That's what I said. I want this team to be 80% to 90% drafted players, because that's how you win. And you're not going to draft 15 rookies this year. I'm talking like 15, 20 picks over the next 2 to 3 years. Here he is. Here's Luke G's field review, everybody. What's going on, Luke?
Hey man, salute to you. I don't want to be on too long. I just wanted to come on. One, because I think it's times in my life where my it's times in my life where I get so excited at the level of intelligence that a person displays. It gets my blood boiling, and the level in which you are preaching to today. You know, I had to leave real church to come to the church of facts and reality because it makes sense. And so I'm sitting here and I'm going through. And I always take what people say and I go, okay, well, let me go through and do it. And people probably think, oh, Luke, you're making it up. You cannot name 40 receivers who have starting potential, but I really can. That's a deep draft. Once you get past certain offensive linemen, you're talking about a steep drop off. And if you look at most mock drafts, I guarantee you won't even find 15 linemen took it in the first 2 rounds. And when you go through and you look at the Lions' need, the fact that they talked about moving Big V over the guard, they're not looking to take a guard at 7. And so now you have to treat it like if you're at 7, what are you taking that's going to give you the best chance to win? Right. It's an offensive tackle. Okay. Well, how far can you drop down and get a quality starting offensive tackle who can do it all? If you look at Slater fits what they want to do. The zone run, somebody who can get to the next level quickly, digest plays and stuff. He fits that. I like Tevin Jenkins because of his aggression.
Me too.
But once you get past the aggression, can you honestly say he's this dude that's going to do X, Y, and Z? No. And so to me, when talking about the draft, we have to be able to ask ourselves, what makes sense? Taking a receiver at 7 when this draft is clearly deep at receiver. Taking a quarterback when he's not going to play for at least 3 seasons. Taking a linebacker who has a checkered past, or at least questionable, I should say. Doesn't make sense. The only thing that makes sense is the safest pick you can make, which is the right tackle. It's the only thing you can make. There's no other decision. Outside of trading that pick down, and then even after you trade that pick down, you still got to go down far enough to still pick up a talent and then get somebody else to come in and fill that spot. I don't see it happening.
Nah, I'm totally with you. I'm totally with you.
I mean, and if you just look at it from this standpoint, that you have to be able to understand that the Lions cannot make luxury picks, not this season. Next year, full-fledged go luxury, because by that point, players and the word about what's going on here would have gotten out to the rest of the people. Richard Sherman didn't want to come here because he talks to Slay, and he talks to Glover Quinn, and he talks to all these other players who was like, bro, they over here tripping. Now you're going to get a different read on it, because now you're going to have players saying, bro, come over here. We have fun. We eat good. They treat us good. They talk to us good. When we on the field, they coaching us. They not down. They not belittling us and stuff. So I see those things happening, and I see them being in a position to be better. That's just how I see it, man.
I agree. I 100% agree. You hit the nail exactly on the head. That's exactly how I see it happening. It really doesn't make sense to do anything but take a tackle at 7. I mean, other than trading down, of course, but like you said, are you really going to use your 7th overall pick on, let's say Devontae Smith, when realistically Elijah Moore may outproduce him? It's not Like the drop off from Devontae Smith to Rashad Bateman is that significant where you can justify taking it at 7 versus waiting for 41 or maybe even day 2, like maybe late day 2. Whereas, like you said, the right tackle position or the tackle position in general, it's Sewell, it's Slater, and then it's a drop. So I fully stand behind you with that one. I think that's 100% true. Let's see. Stephen Bates says they are building for the future secondarily, but being competitive now is the main focus. But that's why they're signing these 1-year contracts. They're signing the 1-year contracts to be competitive this season, but that doesn't mean they're going to be here long term. That means that they're using them for 1 year to get replacements in the building to build for the future. Being competitive now is what they're doing with the 1-year signings. Being competitive now is why they're signing Tyrell Williams, why they're signing Charles Harris, why they are signing all of these players to 1-year contracts. It's because they want to be competitive now. They want to win games this year, but that doesn't mean that those players are long-term options. That doesn't mean those players are going to be here even in 2021, let alone in the future.
Facts. Give me a minute, Ryder. My kids are eating. I'm gonna come back and rejoin you. You can take me out for right now. One of them sound like they might be done because I heard a bowl hit the floor, and that's probably code for he like, hey, I need more. I don't know. Apparently they think they Thor. Okay.
I'll see you in a bit.
All right. Be right back, man.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's always fun. So are you doing a mock today? Probably not today, honestly. I'm with you, Ryder. I want young guys. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm asking for. I see it up. Just got here cooking. How's it going? Welcome to the stream. Luke about to bless us. Fair enough. Y'all spit facts. They already going to go all young guys. They need veterans to mentor the young guys. But like we talked earlier, you don't bring in veteran players to mentor young players. That's the job of the coach. Young guys they have the next 3 drafts to get plenty of young guys. But like I said, they already have the pieces that they want. You don't bring in veteran players to mentor. You bring in veteran players to lead by example and to win you football games and do the things that young players simply don't know how to do yet. You don't bring them in to mentor. You don't bring them in because, they'd be a good teacher. If you wanted them to be a teacher, you hire them as a coach. You sign them as a coach, but there's a reason that these veteran players aren't coaches yet. It's because they're not done playing. You bring in veteran players to play football. You don't bring in veteran players to mentor people. Go Lion says Ryder is spitting facts. I appreciate that. Tevin Jenkins, 15 to 20. That's about the range I see him. I could see a little later, but not much farther after the 20th overall pick. Luke had to come in and be my guy is the best fit. Jenkins has the best hands in the draft. That is not true. Yeah, I said it. I know it to be a fact. I don't think that's true. I think he's the most aggressive, and I think he potentially has a higher ceiling because of his aggression and his play style, but he does not have the best technique or hands in the draft. Guards are just tackles that can't cut it as tackles. Don't draft guards, draft tackles. Exactly. That I think is our quote of the day right there. Guards are just tackles that can't cut it as tackles. That is fair. Very, very fair. Not that guards aren't important, but I don't disagree. Draft tackles, if they don't pan out, just slide them into guard. Yeah, that's fair. Unless it's like a Quentin Nelson, don't draft a guard. Fag Luke, no luxury picks. Thank you. That's what I've been saying, man. Do not take a luxury pick because it's simply not worth it, especially not this year with so many holes. Well, my phone died and Luke G is talking now. Yeah, we had Luke on. He might be back in a little bit. He had to go help some kids out. He had to go help and deal with something at home. So, yeah, he'll be back, I'm sure, in a little bit. Sherman flat out said, I didn't want to go to Detroit because the scheme didn't fit him. That's not true. That's not true. He may have said that, but that's not what he meant. He didn't want to go there because Patricia was the coach. That's all it was. He didn't want to go there because he didn't want to play in a Patriot system. He didn't want to go there because all he's heard out of Detroit since Patricia got there was how everybody hated it. Like, everybody hated it. There's a reason Big V got $50 million is because he didn't want to be here in Detroit. Nobody wanted to be here in Detroit because Patricia built a system, he built a culture and an identity that looked so unappetizing from the outside that nobody would come to Detroit. And I think that's going to change. And Sherman was in the same boat. Sherman, like Luke said, Sherman talked with Darius Slay because they worked together in the offseason almost every year. He talked with Glover Quinn because Glover Quinn and Darius Slay are teammates. They are on the same page. Glover Quinn's been in multiple systems with multiple coaches. I would assume that if he's looking at Detroit, he would talk with a lot of secondary members, especially the veteran members that have been multiple places. And I can guarantee you Glover Quinn said, you don't want to be here. Glover Quinn said the last thing you want to do is be stuck here in Detroit. So there you go. It had something to do with the scheme, but the scheme was not the reason Sherman didn't make it here. A difference maker at wide receiver when you have our wide receiver core is not a luxury pick, but it is. It is a luxury pick. Wide receiver is a luxury pick no matter what. That's just the narrative of the position. A luxury pick is a wide receiver no matter what. That's what skill positions are. Sherman is too old. He cost 49ers the Super Bowl. They were targeting him and he got torched. We don't want that. I mean, that was kind of besides the point, but that may be true as well. Let's see. Wide receiver is a luxury pick, period, when the trenches can be the strength of your team. That's exactly how I'm looking at it. The 1-year deals are because they brought in people that will help build the culture. No, the 1-year deals are to win now and to find replacements. They're placeholders. That's exactly what they are. There, because if they wanted these people here long term, if they wanted to build a culture, you don't build a culture entirely in 1 year. You can get a real good foundation year one. You can get a real solid foundation with 1-year contracts and guys to come in for one season. You can't completely build a culture in 1 year. So if they really wanted these guys to build a culture, they would be here longer than just 1-year contracts. I hope he takes Slater over Sewell if both are available. I would disagree, but I don't think that the talent difference is that large. So if we were to take Slater over Sewell, I wouldn't be mad. I'd not be mad at all. If coaches are to teach, or if coaches are to teachers, veteran players are just extension of the coaching staff. I mean, yeah, I suppose, but their job isn't to teach. Their job is to lead by example. Their job is to do things on the field that rookies don't know while your coaching staff teaches them the things they need to know. You bring in veteran players because rookies don't know everything, right? But veterans aren't brought in here to mentor players. Veterans are brought in here to be placeholders while those young players learn what they need to know. So yes, veteran players are important, but like I was saying, if you get 15, 20 picks over the next 2 years, by the time you get to the end of that class, by the time you get to that 2023 class, you'll have veterans that you drafted. You'll have veterans that you brought up in your system and in your scheme. And by that point, free agency is almost redundant. It's almost irrelevant because you have the guys you want in the locker room. And at that point, you're going to be like the Buccaneers, where you're 1-2 pieces away. You go get that in free agency, not to teach. Tom Brady was not brought in to teach. You have, like I said, Tom Brady, perfect example. He was not brought in to teach. Phillip Rivers was not brought in to teach the next quarterback what to do in Indianapolis. Tom Brady and Phillip Rivers were brought in to win football games, and they both did that. They both took their team to the playoff because that's what they were brought in to do. Tom Brady is not a teacher. Tom Brady is a football player, and he's brought in to win football games. The 1-year contracts that work out will most likely still be around. A 1-year contract is essentially a prove-it deal. That's true. But if it's a prove-it deal, that means that the Lions aren't predicating on these players. It means the Lions aren't sold that these players are going to be good for them. And with that being the case, that means that if you're not planning your future around this person, you're planning your future around somebody else that's going to replace this player. The Lions are not just sitting here right now with all these 1-year contracts, not having a plan for the future. They're either going to re-sign these players because they're good enough and they proved it on their prove-it deal, then you can build around them, or they're going to be gone and the Lions already have a replacement picked out for. I guarantee you, if you go through the entire free agency class right now, maybe with the exception of Jamal Williams, because he's the only one with a multi-year deal, they have a replacement in mind for every single player from the free agency right now. I can guarantee you that's the case. I can guarantee you if you go through the entire free agent class, there's a replacement ready in the draft or in the next couple drafts for each and every one of those players. Pretty much in this draft, pick a school and it 90% chance you will find a decent wide receiver. That's pretty true. The bring in veteran players X to mentor young player Y is one of the most overused false narratives in sports. I would agree with that. That is so true. Joey is spitting facts. Joey, all he does is spit facts. That's all I've ever heard from him. If you don't see the hands on Jenkins, you don't know what to look at. I see the production. I'm not saying Jenkins is a bad player, but that doesn't mean I think he's the best tackle in the class. I mean, that's not what it means. And I don't think he has the best hands. I think he has good hands. I think I see the hands you're talking about. I see what he's talking about, but I don't think he has the best. And I think it's really funny how YouTubers can create a narrative. And I notice this more now that I'm doing YouTube, but I'm a big fan of Brett Coleman. I'm a very, very big fan of his NFL film room. And trust me, I watch it a lot. I watch every episode over and over and over again. It helps me learn football. It helps me learn about some prospects. And especially the Bootleg Football Podcast is one that I'm a very, very big fan of. Anytime Brett or EJ mention anybody, all of a sudden, all of our Lions fans, everybody in this Lions community is all over this person. Like, I never heard of anything about Tevin Jenkins until a week or two ago when Brett Coleman put out a video on him or when they mentioned him on the Bootleg Football Podcast. And I find that so funny that they're so influential. I think that's awesome. And I obviously respect their opinion immensely, but I find that hilarious that and I'm not saying that you don't see the things that you're seeing. And I'm not saying that you're not, I'm not saying you're just saying things to repeat, but I find it very, very funny the extent I find it very funny that these people have a impact to the extent that they do. I think that's very cool, but I think it's also slightly dangerous. Trade the 7th, try to get a wide receiver O lineman through the draft or draft through trade or draft. Good job, Ryder. Yeah, I appreciate it. And I agree with you. Good coaches bring in veterans to help develop the young players. Nobody says that they are just brought in for that, but it does help. If don't think vets help develop players, then players just say that instead. I do think they help players, but I don't think that's why they're brought in. Nobody hires an NFL player thinking, all right, you're going to come in, and nobody goes into an interview and hires or signs a player going, all right, you're going to be here to mentor this player. Will it happen if the veteran player leads by example? Yeah, but that's not what he's brought in to do. And like I said, bringing in a bunch of veteran players for especially this year is not what the Lions need. It's not. They have enough veteran players on the roster right now that they're going to be completely fine. They're going to be fine right now no matter what because they have enough veteran players that right now they need to build through the draft because they have enough veteran players to do what they need to do. And when those veteran players become too veteran, when they become too old and when they're ready to move on, then you're going to have developed veteran players that have been in the system for their entire career. And that's only going to help the Lions more. Well, Sherman's a better fit in cover 3. Patricia never used a cover 3. I mean, that might be true. And I'm not saying that he fit the system, but I can guarantee you that is not the sole reason he did not come to Detroit. I can guarantee you that is not the case. Veteran players are an extension of the coaching staff. That is the point, yes, but they are primarily brought in to start because they are more proven. That is why they are necessary over rookies. But like I said, we have veteran players in here. We don't need to bring in any more veteran players, so it's time to start building through the draft because we have some veteran players. That was my point the whole time is we need to build through the draft, not because I don't want to sign veterans, not because I don't want to sign guys that have experience. It's because the Lions have enough experience in the building. The Lions have enough people where they can start building through the draft. And like I said, when those veteran players are gone, you're going to have veteran players of your own that came up through this Lions system. LOL, so the way you said it is it wasn't about culture. Then either you didn't listen to the presser or they lied to us. Either way, it's whatever. What are you talking about? Are you talking about the Sherman thing? Because I think the Sherman thing was just he didn't want to play with Patricia. And if you're talking about the 1-year contract thing, like I said, you can build a solid foundation and start a culture in 1 year, but you can't build an entire culture year one. You can't build an entire culture in 17 football games. It's not possible. So, like I said, you bring these players in to start the culture, but if these players were truly brought here to build a long-term culture, they would get more than 1-year contracts. What's up with this Sherman talk? I don't want him in Detroit. is for I don't want him. Detroit is forever getting guys on the tail end of their careers. I wasn't saying we should get Richard Sherman. That wasn't the point that I was trying to talk about. They were talking about a couple of years ago when he was a free agent and passed over Detroit for San Francisco. And I wasn't saying we should go get Richard Sherman. That was not the point at all, Don Per, if you were, talking about that. But my whole point was he didn't come here. Sherman didn't come here for, 3 years ago? He didn't come here because he didn't want to. He didn't come here because the culture was bad, because he didn't want to play with Matt Patricia, because he didn't like what was being built here. He didn't like the players that were brought in. He didn't like what he was hearing from the veterans of the team like Darius Slate and like Glover Quinn. So, you look at that, and that was the whole Richard Sherman conversation. It wasn't necessarily to, debate whether he should be here next year. The Bucks brought Sue to help win a Super Bowl, not because they think he's a good mentor to Vita Vea. That's exactly true. And that's why they re-signed him, is because they think he still has that potential to help them get back to the Super Bowl. I mean, the Buccaneers didn't sign anybody to be a veteran, really. I mean, you look at what was their free agent class last year. It wasn't anything huge. Their biggest one was Tom Brady. But like I said, Tom Brady was brought in to win a Super Bowl. Tom Brady wasn't brought in to mentor Blaine Gabbert. He wasn't brought in to mentor any of these young guys. You didn't bring in they didn't franchise tag Chris Godwin to teach Tyler Johnson. They franchise tagged him because he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and he helps them win. Don, I was past tense conversation about Sherman. No team wants him. Yeah, very, very true. I think we could all agree on that one. LMAO, I was talking about Tevin before Brett made his video. I didn't hear anything about him before that, but LMAO, true writer, that is facts. Lots of film grinders operate in an echo chamber. It's fair. Like, if you hear it from somebody, then you kind of have that idea already in your head. And, if you had that idea already in your head, it's kind of hard to get rid of that narrative that you've kind of built for yourself already. You do your research. Proud of you. Always keep spitting. That's what I'm going to try to keep doing. That's what I'm here for. Here we go, Lions. Here we go. Man, I'm so ready for this season. I was at Ford Field this morning, and I got all the nostalgia. I got all the feels back. I'm ready for this season. I'm so ready. What's funny is I didn't know this. The Lions in their stadium at Ford Field have like a whole corner, and the big poster says it's dagger time, which I think is really funny because that was a whole thing last offseason, and it didn't work. Of course, like the Lions didn't actually – the whole – idea of that didn't work, but I think it's funny that that's up in their rafters. It's just they have a big sign that says it's dagger time, which I think is funny. We're building through the draft. John Dorsey, Brad Holmes won't have it any other way. Guys are too smart and know what they're doing. I agree with that. Dorsey did the exact same thing in KC. He did the exact same thing in Cleveland. Film grinders is why Devontae Smith is regarded as highly as he is, but no film grinder will acknowledge the fact that half of his film wouldn't exist if Waddle doesn't get hurt. That's true. Detroit Lions need playmakers, defense, and offensive playmakers. Make the difference no matter what your position. Some positions are definitely more impactful than others. Well, everybody knows one of the best ways to build a team is through the draft, especially if you get cheap owners. You got to be able to seek the talent. That's very, very true. Unpopular opinion, Lions aren't as far as people think from being a playoff team. That is not an unpopular opinion. That's actually my opinion. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team next year, but I think 7 to 9 wins, and I think right on the edge of that playoff race, like a game or two back from the playoffs, I think that's where the Lions are going to be next year. I don't think the Lions are as bad as people think they are. I really, really don't. I like looking at this team, looking at the coordinators, looking at the positional coaches, looking at the idea that this team has or what the idea seemingly is for this team. I genuinely think that they are closer than anybody is willing to give them credit for. Funny, Sherman would have been brought in during the first offseason before Patricia ever had a practice, but Slay and Diggs supposedly knew the first practice he was going to be. You can kind of tell. You can kind of see that, like the first practice, like the first meeting with a player, or with a coach, you can kind of tell how they're going to be. Like whether it's a teacher, a coach, a mentor, whoever. Like the first time you meet somebody, you kind of have an idea about them. So even before free agency, I know for a fact Matt Patricia met with Darius. I know for a fact he met with Quandre Diggs way before even the first practice took place. And I mean, it seemed like from the very first time Patricia opened his mouth in the locker room, it did not go very well. Didn't go very well. Funny part, no, everybody doesn't know building through the draft is the way. Detroit fans love to get names no matter how old the player is, and they have big name. Most Detroit fans want them. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Patricia hadn't even held a practice at that point. Yeah, but like I said, you can kind of gauge a coach by the way he talks to people, and I guarantee you they've met with Patricia multiple times before that happened. I can guarantee it. Build offensive line on the right side, and you'll have a better run game for the get-go. I agree. I 100% agree with that. 100%. Building through the offensive line is the way to go. That's how teams win. Genuinely, that's how football teams win. That's how they become successful football teams, is because they have good offensive lines. Like I said, Kansas City had a really good offensive line. Tampa Bay had a really good offensive line. Buffalo, good offensive line. Green Bay, good offensive line. You have, Tennessee made the playoffs, had a really good offensive line. Indianapolis, same exact thing. Pittsburgh, same exact thing. Cleveland, same exact thing. All of them had good offensive lines. All of them had incredible trench play throughout the entire year. And it's not a coincidence that the best offensive lines, the best trenches in the NFL, go to the playoffs year in and year out. So true. You would like Detroit fans would have learned your lesson after what just happened with Blake and the Pistons. I don't even follow basketball, but I get what you're saying there for sure. Now at number 7, I would assume that's Zach Wilson. Jamar Chase and Rashawn Slater are available. One trade back to 15 or 19. I mean, if Zach Wilson's available, I think you take him. Zach Wilson is the only quarterback in this class where I think he is too good to pass up on. He is the only quarterback in this class that I think genuinely he is too good to pass on if he is at 7. Now, he's not going to be at 7. I can almost guarantee you he won't be at 7, but I do think that's fair. I think he's the only player where it's like you cannot, under no circumstance, trade back if he's on the board. Mostly because Trevor Lawrence won't be there. But, him and Zach Wilson are the only two guys where it's like those guys are unpassable. Joey, people, you're a narrative from other YouTubers and run with it without ever being able to make it make sense on a timeline. That's true. I will always trade back. I mean, unless it's Zach Wilson, I'm not. Unless it's Zach Wilson, I'm trading back. Unless it's Zach Wilson. What are your thoughts about JOK? I love Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He's my favorite linebacker in the class. I think he really helped out that Notre Dame linebacker. He really helped out that Notre Dame defense. Like, he was the best player. You can see it if you watch the first Clemson game. You can see it if you watch a lot of his games. Like, offenses tried to avoid him, and he still made them pay. Like, the touchdown he had against Clemson, like, people are going to tell you that's a lucky play. That's not a lucky play. That touchdown that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah had against Clemson was not even designed for him to make a play. He just used his instincts. He used his speed and just flew to the ball. And yeah, was it a fumble? Was it a bad pitch or, bad catch? Yes. But even if Etienne had caught that, I still have doubts that he would have held on to that ball. Even if Etienne had got a solid catch on that, I still think Jeremiah punches that ball out. I still think he forces a fumble there. And maybe that is returned for touchdown or not. And, maybe it is, maybe it's not returned. But either way, regardless of it, if Etienne catches that cleanly, I still think that's a turnover by Clemson, because Jeremiah is simply that good of a player that he just makes plays everywhere on the field. I love Jeremiah for that. I'm not a fan of trading back. It depends on who falls to me. That's fair. And I think it's hard to say one way or the other until somebody does fall, but I would agree with that. I would agree that, it's kind of hard to gauge sometimes, not knowing who's there. Pick up right tackle Jackson from Iowa or Ettenberg. I don't think that's right. From Notre Dame or Leatherwood from Bama. They all can play right tackle, move big. But like, they're not on the same level as the big three. They're really not on the same level as even the top 2. Whereas, like, if you were to take a weapon at 7, you're still going to get same production Like, honestly, if Devontae Smith is in this offense and Elijah Moore is in this offense next season, like if it's one or the other, I think they perform similarly. I really, really do. You look at, let's say, Jalen Waddle versus maybe Rondale Moore. I genuinely don't think I think they're going to get used in the same role, and I think they're going to have similar efficiencies. I don't think the drop off from wide receiver is the same as drop off from tackle. It's just not. That and Eichenberg and Leatherwood and Jackson are just simply not on the same caliber as the other guys. I would love to trade back and take Jeremiah. I'd love that too. I'd be so happy with that. Let's see. I bet saying he should have moved to guard. I was saying that Big V. Yeah. Big V should have been a guard the whole time. Joey, did you look at Weekly Spiral? Don't blame Goff video on YouTube. I have not seen that. I have not. Build the trenches in 2021 and next year build the defensive line. Champions are made this way. Detroit Central forever. That's what we've been saying. That's what we have been saying. So, I mean, trenches win you football games, and that's proven. That's fact. That's how it's been since the NFL was founded. Trenches win you football games. That's proven. That's factual. I can pull up stats right now of every Super Bowl champion, and I guarantee you every single one has a top offensive line. I guarantee you, if you go back through the past decade of playoffs, every single team or almost every single team that made the playoffs any given year in the past decade had a really good offensive line. Because trenches win you football games. And I guarantee you all those teams had a good defensive line. I've already gone over the last playoff run from the Buccaneers all the way down to the Washington football team. They win through trenches because trench play is how you win football games. That's why the 49ers have invested their last 7 picks in defensive linemen. That's why the Washington football team has spent their last 5 or 6 picks on defensive linemen. That's why, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers spending their first couple of picks on offensive linemen. That's why you have, Joe Thuney getting $80 million to go to the Chiefs. That's why you have, Rodney Hudson. Did he go to the Chiefs too? I don't remember. But that's why you have, the Raiders, who genuinely aren't that good of a football team. That's why they're 8-8, is because their offensive line played so incredibly well. Offensive line and defensive line win you football games, right? I mean, that's exactly how you build, and that's exactly how you win. Team says, exactly. Some people keep saying build the trenches, but keep saying linebackers are in need, like the trenches start there. Like they forgot about we need interior defensive linemen. Yeah, I mean, like defensive line isn't even necessarily great in this class, and that's why I think we should prioritize offensive line first. And, linebacker can come in this draft. Linebacker is relatively deep as well. Like maybe not as deep as wide receiver, but linebacker. Like, I think Parsons in the right system could be solid. Jeremiah in the right system could be solid. Jamin Davis in the right system can be good. Zaven Collins is going to be good. Baron Browning, again, right system could be very good. Jabril Cox could be a starting linebacker. Nick Bolton can be a starting linebacker. Dylan Moses can be a starting linebacker. You have Cameron McGrone can be a starting linebacker if he's healthy. You have Chaz Surratt can be a starting linebacker in the NFL. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is 10 starting linebackers. I guarantee you 10 linebackers will not go off the board in the first day. And, I skipped over Pete Warner. Pete Warner is not a bad player. He can, I don't necessarily see him being a full-time starting linebacker, but he can be a rotational guy that makes plays on occasion. Like linebacker is far from the first need, and it should be far from the first pick. At this point, your view on Goff is what it is. I believe it isn't that far-fetched to build a playoff team around Goff. I just don't think Goff is I don't either. I don't think Goff is a top-tier quarterback. I think he is a 15 to 20. I think that's his range as far as quarterback rankings is, 15 at his best days and 20 at his worst days. Realistically placing him around 17th on average. That's not a bad quarterback. That means there are 12 to 15 other quarterbacks worse than Jared Goff in the NFL. That puts him right around average. That puts him right in the very middle of the NFL as far as quarterback talents. I don't think he's a great quarterback. I think he's a solid quarterback, and I think you can win a playoff game around him. I think you can build a playoff team around Jared Goff. Is he going to be the greatest quarterback in the world? He's never going to be that. He's never been that. And I even think he's a downgrade from Matthew Stafford. But that doesn't mean you can't win with them, because if anything Goff has shown the past 4 years, it's that he can win football games. If Jared Goff has shown you anything, it's that you can win football games. Trenches, sure. How can you win games with in good weather or bad weather? As Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes ran 400 yards in the Super Bowl. Exactly. That's why the Chiefs lost. The Chiefs had arguably they didn't plan very well. They didn't have a great game plan going in, but they lost because Patrick Mahomes ran for his life. And Patrick Mahomes genuinely, I didn't think played horribly in that Super Bowl. Looking and taking into account everything that Patrick Mahomes was dealing with in that game, he really didn't play that poorly. The first quarter should have had a really nice touchdown to Tyreek Hill that hit him in the face mask. That throw that people like to clown on ESPN for the one where he was completely parallel to the ground, threw an absolute strike, and just had a really good, that was an amazing throw. Hit his running back in the end zone in the face. Like, that's a second touchdown that should have been on the board that wasn't. There was another one that hit his wide receiver right in the face that just didn't. There was the one where he threw it to the back corner of the end zone that looked so improbable, and yet it was a catchable touchdown pass. Now, would it have been an amazing touchdown catch? Was it an easy one? Absolutely not. Would it have been the most, the greatest touchdown catch you've ever seen? Maybe. But like, Patrick Mahomes realistically should have had 2 to 3 touchdowns in that game without the offensive line help. So give him a little bit more time to read the field. Give him a little bit more time for the Chiefs to go and run the system that they want. Run that system where they run a lot of deep routes, but they have the protection to do so. That you give them their tackles back, that's a far more competitive game. Did the Chiefs win that game? Probably not. Do the Chiefs go back-to-back like that? Probably not. But at the same time, if Patrick Mahomes is given offensive linemen in that game, I think that game is incredibly different. Here's Luke. He's back, everybody. What's going on? Welcome back.
All right, I'm back, man. Listen, I got kids, and I'm on daddy duty. So, when you got kids and you're on daddy duty, you got to do it. Man, you on fire today, Ryder.
I try.
Man, you try. You forget trying. You did. I'm listening to you. I'm like, man, every point is on point. And the logic in which I think many people are looking, I don't think they're being objective with it, right? Like, we want what we want when we want it, but sometimes getting what we want ain't the answer. Sometimes the answer might be to get a player that you may not like. I remember when we got Frank Ragnow, a lot of people were confused, right? Mm-hmm. Look at that now. That was the right pick.
Yes, it was. Oh, yeah.
Elite
pick. Best pick of the Quinn Trisha era.
It's just right. Like that's a player that if we saw on somebody else's team, we'd be saying, damn, how we didn't get that guy? Mm-hmm. So yeah, you've been on fire today. I've been listening, and it's impressive to every level, man. It's no wonder like you got to 1,000, but you need to be way higher. We got to do more. We the people got to do more. We got to be better at hitting that like button. We got to better at hitting that notification bell, better at hitting that subscription button. And then the biggest thing we got to do is we got to be better at telling other people how it go. That says that, Luke, I feel you, single dad, 2 kids myself. I'm not single. I'm definitely not single. I'm not a single dad, but I'm very active in my kids' life. But man, kudos to you. A single dad, man, you're a unicorn. It's not too many times you get the single dad mantras going on. So shout out to you, man. Ryder, go ahead, man. I'm just gonna piggyback off you. Whatever you talking about, I'm right there with you. Because you on fire today.
All right. Vincent says, I think Goff will be good with the right coaching. Why does Stafford get all of this credit? Goff has been to a Super Bowl, 2 Pro Bowls, and he ran into an arrogant McVay. Well, Sean McVay is arguably the best play caller in the NFL offensively. He's a very smart head coach. Is he arrogant? Probably, but if you're a head coach that young that's been to a Super Bowl, I don't know how you wouldn't be at least a little arrogant. Like, I don't think Sean McVay is being arrogant got in Jared Goff's way. Sean McVay, I'm not gonna say is the sole reason for Jared Goff's success, because I'm sure Jared Goff works very hard. I'm sure he's a smart guy. I mean, I know that he can be successful in the NFL because we saw it in college, or we saw it in the NFL, and we saw him in college, right? He's the number one overall pick for a reason. So it's not like you can say Jared Goff is a bad quarterback for any say. But at the same time, Sean McVay did a lot for Jared Goff. There's a reason that when Jared Goff was drafted by Jeff Fisher, he went 0-7 and had more interceptions than touchdowns. And there's a reason that the next year that Sean McVay got there, he looked like a first overall pick. He looked like a very good quarterback. And there's a reason that the Rams went 10-6 the first year under Sean McVay. So
plus, now first I'm a little different. I do think that Sean McVay is arrogant. I do believe that they figured out his offense a little bit. And I do believe that he went against what was asked of his quarterback. They went to a Super Bowl because they ran the ball. That's just the truth. They ran the ball, and it was so good at running the ball that everything else opened up. And then the minute the run game died, you were asking your quarterback to now be the answer. But I think that's a formula for losing, not for Jared Goff, but for any football club. You cannot ask your quarterback to be the savior. Peyton Manning by himself wasn't the savior. Tom Brady managed games for years and has kept winning with that formula because he's not asked to be the savior. And to me, when you look at the winning formula, like go through the recent Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes constantly under pressure asked to be the savior. Why was you not running the ball more? You had Damian Williams, you had Edwards-Helaire. You didn't run with neither of them like you were supposed to, and they were doing good.
Yeah,
so
they looked really good in that Super
Bowl.
They
did. And so you got to look at it and say, okay, what was the what was the formula for winning? The reason Stafford gets so much praise is because he did so much without nothing. And the first thing people want to point out is he had Calvin Johnson. But I think it's actually in reverse. I think it should have been said Calvin has Matthew Stafford. Because before Matthew Stafford, a lot of those quarterbacks could barely get the ball to him. So, I watched the John Kitners and Dante Culpeppers and all that trash before trying to get the ball to freaking Calvin Johnson. Wasn't pretty. He was able to get the ball to him. But the problem with our organization is we like to ride on our best players. We did it to Barry. We did it to Calvin. We did it to Matthew. If you go to the defense, we'll ride on our best players, but then we'll cut them as soon as the opportunity presents itself, i.e. Sue, Benny Blaze. The list goes on and on and on. And that's the problem. That's the problem. You have to be able to run the ball. And if you don't run the ball, chances is you're probably not winning in this league.
Yeah. And with the whole Matthew Stafford, Calvin Johnson thing, like the whole argument that he had Calvin is kind of flawed because Stafford got better without Calvin.
I've been trying to tell people that, but I usually save those points for when people come in and be like, "What you mean?" And I go, "Okay, this is what I mean." Argue that.
Like Stafford genuinely became a better quarterback after Calvin Johnson retired
because he was told to throw the ball to Calvin. I guarantee you, if they told, I remember, shout out to the QB School, which is a beautiful channel done by JT O'Sullivan, former Detroit Lion quarterback. He and I did a little bit of a collaboration, and he told me on that collaboration that they will work for days on plays upon plays upon plays, and then they would get in the game and be like, throw the ball to Calvin. And he was like, well, what about all that preparation we did? Don't audible, just throw the ball up to Calvin. Yeah. Just a dumb way of going about doing things. And so if they told him that, I can only imagine what they told Stafford. Because you're right, he did get better once he left. In the case of Jared Goff to me is Troy Aikman. Let him manage the game and he'll be okay. But outside of that, man, you just don't fire today. You hitting on all cylinders, okay? They all oiled up. The fuel is top notch. I'm just enjoying this. I'm just here. You know what? You Batman. I'm not even freaking Robin. I'm like some secondary character that just here to assist you.
All right. William Allen says Eichenberg from Notre Dame didn't give up a sack and can play the whole offensive line positions. Good enough for a third round pick. Go Lions. What do you think about this one? What do you think about Eichenberg?
I think he would be decent if you're talking about taking him in the later rounds of like third or fourth. I mean, yeah, but the goal is to ask yourself what are the chances of you getting that player then versus you saying, hey, I can get one of these better tackles now. And so rather than play the game of chance, because there are other teams who need offensive linemen, i.e. the Bucks, i.e. the Patriots,
Chiefs.
the Chiefs. Rather than play that game, I'm gonna take my guy now who I feel can do it. And while I do like Eichenberg, there's some flaws in his game that I would have to point out. Will make you want to puke. so I mean, it just is what it is. But a lot of the times you gotta look at the way that their offenses are ran. And when you talk about not giving up a sack and all that stuff like that, because I'm pretty sure he's giving up sacks. I just can't remember them off the top of my head. But again, you got to look at how teams are ran, and it's just 100% the reality of it. To me, I'm just not waiting that late unless you tell me we're getting something that I guarantee can come into play right now. But to me, you have to complete the offense by saying, let me build this line up, because at that point, no matter who you plug in there, they can come in, run the ball because they got a line, pass the ball because they got a line. And then in the second round, you can add, which by the way, I did predict weeks ago, and I still stand by this prediction, that we will be trading back into the first and having at least 2 first picks this year. I just feel like the Lions is not going to be done. They're going to be aggressive and getting who they want to help get this team on track. And so to me, yeah, I mean, if you're talking about taking him in the third or fourth, okay, cool. The question is, what's the likelihood of him being there by the time you pick in the third or fourth?
No, I fully agree with that. Vincent says, check both numbers, Stafford and Goff. Stafford is Mr. Interception. I don't like this argument either against Stafford because, like we were talking about earlier, like Stafford was told, throw the ball to Calvin. And yeah, Calvin occasionally caught it over 4 or 5 defenders, but that's not how you win football games. And that's not how you get good numbers. I mean, if you throw it to Calvin Johnson in double coverage, yeah, he might come down with it. But at the same time, you're going to throw 2 to 3 interceptions a game because Calvin's going to be double covered. He's going to be triple covered. Like, Stafford's interceptions went down so much after Calvin Johnson retired because he got a chance to really read the field, got a chance to really work on the things that they told him to do throughout the week. And Stafford got better without Calvin, and his interception numbers show that. His touchdown to interception ratio shows that after Calvin retired. And the 1 year, I believe it was Patricia's first year, Stafford was not one, he didn't look like himself. Stafford did not look like the quarterback that we all know Stafford was. And I think part of that was because they were trying to make Stafford into Tom Brady, which he simply isn't. And the one game he started off with like 4 interceptions in the same game really, hurt his numbers and really inflated that interception number. But honestly, like early career Stafford versus Stafford now are 2 very different quarterbacks. And Jared Goff, like Luke was saying earlier, Jared Goff is in a run-first system. He's been in a run-first system his whole life. So if you're not asking Jared Goff to make tough throws down the field, he's not going to throw as many interceptions. If, every 3 throws that Matthew Stafford makes, Jared Goff hands that ball off. Like, Matthew Stafford attempts so many more passes and so many more difficult passes where he has to thread the needle. He has to make an incredible throw, where Jared Goff's offense is set up where Stafford is, let's say 3rd and 12 because the offense is incompetent. Jared Goff is 3rd and 2. And they hand the ball off and keep it moving versus Stafford having to make a play by himself and maybe making a poor decision. Now, is Stafford perfect? No, Stafford's made some stupid throws. Stafford threw a couple pick sixes this year and threw a couple interceptions where it was just unforgivable. But to say that Matthew Stafford is Mr. Interception because Jared Goff is in a more quarterback friendly system is not a fair argument either.
Plus, I can listen. You said it way better than I would if I would have killed that whole argument with name me all the quarterbacks who took over a team that went 0-16. Let's start there.
Fair enough.
Let's start there. And how long do you think it would take for those teams to scrub a 0-16 record from it? Like Baker Mayfield jumped onto a team that he took over from a team that's 0-16. He's nowhere near at the level of a Stafford. So when you compare the two, you got one guy who went to a team that was 2-14, full of talent with bad coaching, and a guy who went to a team that had no talent that was 0-16, and it took them all the bit of about 3 seasons to completely scrub it, minus the long snapper. So, and then to add insult to injury, they added more. They added Swartz, who came in and got him in one direction, but then I think he got in the way with some of his friends joining him, and then you go down to Caldwell, who started winning, which it's hard to say, but it's like it wasn't like they were winning the best of the best game, but they were winning. Then we went from there to Patricia. So, not to mention how many coordinators has he had already? I lose count.
I think it was like 6 or 7 or something.
Yeah, I know it's more than a handful, and it's enough. It's enough for a fist. So yeah, I mean, if you want to call him Mr. Interception, you can call him Mr. Interception. But if you go through and you look at the players and you look at what's going on, I think what you will find is that majority of the times that these players go to bad teams with bad coaching and they suck. I mean, he had 20 interceptions in his rookie year after joining a team that was 0-16.
Right.
Put that in perspective, right? Like the next year he gets hurt at the only 3 games. And this is the part that's crazy, right? He gets hurt at the only 3 games, but in his first two seasons, that man was sacked 28 times in his first 2 seasons, and that's with him only playing 13 games. Mr. Interception, okay. The next highest total interception total from him came in 2013, where he had 29 touchdowns and 19 interceptions. But if you were to go through and you look at on average his interceptions, I mean, let's just go through and look at them: 21, 16, 17, 19, 12, 13, 10, 10, 11, 5, 10. Interception machine? You want to do that in comparison to some other quarterbacks and talk about some interceptions?
30 by Jameis Winston. That's all I gotta say. Like,
I mean, like I said, we talking about a guy. We talking about a guy who went to an organization that has still, until I ain't gonna say now, that has yet to show that they are competent enough to even be doing football. So it's hard to judge that.
Right. Edward says his draft prediction is Lawrence goes at 1, Smith at 2. I would assume that's Devontae Smith because that's the only Smith I would think of, which I would be wild. Zach Wilson at 3, Justin Fields at 4, Sewell at 5, Chase at 6, Lions trade back. Do you agree with this? Because I got a couple.
I think Lawrence go 1. I think Wilson goes 2.
I agree.
I think Trey Lance or Fields go 3.
I agree.
I think at 4, you see either Michael Pitts or you see them taking a defensive player like Parsons.
Okay.
I think the Bengals would definitely take an offensive tackle, whether it's Sewell or Slater. They're taking one of them. And then I think the Lions trade back at least one spot, or if not more, because they might say, you know what, we can get someone comparable at the tackle position, which is possible. But if they're stuck at 7, I see the Lions taking, unfortunately, a wide receiver.
Yeah. I mean, I hope they don't. I really hope the Lions don't take a wide receiver because, like we've been saying the whole time, like it's just not worth it. But we'll see. We'll wait and see on that one. Joey 2 times says Luke is right or knocking these out of the park today. I appreciate that. Get the next Lawrence Taylor Parsons from Penn State, 1st round, 2nd round offense. I've never heard of him.
What did he say? I'm trying to make sure I heard that right.
It says Lawrence Taylor. I don't know. I would assume there should be a comment in there somewhere, but it says get the next Lawrence Taylor Parsons. OT from Penn State.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means.
I don't know, but
I'm trying to figure out like
next who
the next Parsons.
I don't know. Snap. Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, get the next Lawrence Taylor. Okay, that's what he's
Oh,
saying. He's saying that Parsons is
I
the
got
next
you.
Lawrence Taylor.
I
That
got
is
you. Okay.
the furthest thing from the truth. Unless you telling me Parsons is on drugs, you're just not
Like
telling the
Lawrence
truth.
Taylor.
Lawrence Taylor, listen, I love Lawrence Taylor. I just question some of his stats and some of his feats because Lawrence Taylor was high as hell. But if you go to Lawrence Taylor in college, which he could have been high in college, I don't know. There is nothing that would suggest that Parsons is on a Lawrence Taylor level. Not Nathan, nothing at all.
No.
But I do wonder if, like I said, if you tell me Parsons is high off, I think Lawrence Taylor's drug was coke and crack. If he was high off of crack,
that was the
then
one.
then okay, then he is Lawrence Taylor, because I'm still trying to figure out how does a guy with a dislocated shoulder still lay tackles into people. You got to be high to do that. Like
you gotta have something.
Yeah, it's just no way of getting around it. And so no, there's nothing about those two that are comparable. Nothing.
No. And I think Joey hits it on the head right here. Parsons is much closer to Jared Davis than Lawrence Taylor.
100%. I mean, it's one of the things that it's one of the things that I pointed out immediately to people that I'm like, all y'all people hate Jared Davis, and yet you want the guy that's Jared Davis 2.0. I don't understand this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't see the I just don't see it. Vincent, he got drafted, bro. What are you talking about? Motor City Sports, and I agree. So Batman and whoever, we still safe. We still make this one. Not trying to argue. Listen, it's not an argument, people. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
Nothing said here is personal.
Calvin said he wanted Aaron Rodgers. He retired because Stafford threw the balls too. That is not true. Well, maybe he said he wanted Aaron Rodgers, but I highly doubt Megatron retired.
That's not what he said. What he said is he would have loved to play in Green Bay with a guy like Aaron Rodgers because of what Green Bay was over there doing. I've read every quote. I've seen every statement. He made no indication that the issue was Matthew Stafford. Mm-hmm. You don't have to like Stafford. You just don't. That's fine. But we can't go around making up falsehoods because we could put receipts to it. He didn't say anything that directly did. He said to Aaron Rodgers, I wish I can go over and play with a team, like play with a team like that and play with Aaron Rodgers because of what Green Bay was doing. And Green Bay was doing things. Devontae Smith got the ball. Greg Jennings got the ball. What's the other receiver they had before he dipped up out of there? Randall was getting the ball. They know how to get the ball to their receivers, and then they know how to put together an organization. So there's a number of different things that led into that, but it had nothing to do with and Calvin said he wanted Aaron Rodgers. He retired because Stafford threw the ball too high.
Right.
He never said that.
And that was the whole argument when he had the one quote, I think it was on Glover Quinn's show, where he was like, I was hoping Atlanta would trade up and pick me. And like everybody freaked out because they're like, oh, he doesn't like Detroit. Oh, he never wanted to play here, yada, yada, yada. But people also forget that he was born in Georgia.
Right.
He went to Georgia Tech. He grew up a Falcons fan. Like,
right.
Who in that situation wouldn't want to go to that argument never made sense to me either. And people were getting all over Calvin because he didn't want to play in Detroit. And it's like, well, he still played here, didn't he? He still put up the numbers.
It's the one thing that, like I said, I keep telling people this and they don't want to believe it. This fan base love their receivers. Nobody blames Herman Moore. Nobody blames Johnny Morton. Nobody blames the receivers on his team. Nobody blames Barry. They only blame quarterbacks. And so far today, 18 quarterbacks have been blamed, including our newest quarterback who has yet to take a snap for us. If you look at the numbers of Calvin Johnson before and after Stafford, Calvin was more fortunate to have a Matthew Stafford. Calvin, his first season started 10 games. The second season started 16 games. He was getting targeted and stuff. And they were trying to find ways to get him the ball. The year that he had Stafford for 3 games, he had a 48.9% catch percentage because guess what? The guy who threw him the ball was out. They wasn't there. And he played in 14 games. Only had 984 yards. Well, Stafford comes back in 2010, and Calvin makes the Pro Bowl. Why?
Mhm.
Because he gets
Stafford just
1120 in yards. He gets 12 touchdowns. But the difference was he had a 56.2 catch percentage. He was above 50% in his catch percentage. In fact, the lowest year that he ever had in catch percentages was his rookie year, which we'll excuse that, with 51.6%. The second year, which was 2008, when they went 0-16 and they force fed him the damn ball, 52%. And then the year he started out good with Stafford, but then Stafford obviously got hurt. That was his worst year at 48.9. After Stafford, 56.2, 60.8, 59.8, 53.8, 55.5, 59.1. We got to stop with this. I don't know why it's a love affair with the wide receiver position in this fan base, but I'm sorry. The man was on our team and we went 0-16.
Yeah. What do you think about Okudah switching numbers? Do you think it's important or not? I don't think it's a big deal.
I don't think it's a big deal, but I'm happy he did it. I hated seeing him in that 30, and to me, this is one of the reasons why I just laugh, because I'm like, you just had no if you were going to take Okudah, you had no reason to take Desmond Trufant.
Mm-hmm.
You just had no reason. I'm glad he changed his number. Hopefully, because usually people do feel better about their numbers they wear. I know that to be a fact. I personally felt better about the number I wore. When I played baseball, I always liked the 21, and when I played football, I always liked the double digits. So if you gave me anything that was a double digit, I was good. But my favorite numbers were 55 and 99. That's because of Junior Seau and Warren Sapp. So I was like, look, give me 55 and 99, I'm good.
Fair
right
enough.
So
Yeah.
But I think he'll be fine with the number change. It's just a number change, but hopefully that's part of it too. I mean, the biggest thing is the fact that he said he dealt with a lot of dysfunction his first rookie season.
Right. No, that's for sure. Yeah, for sure. And I've talked about this a lot, but like, he got no help at all.
No.
Like, and he was injured. It came out that he had a groin injury like all year, which didn't help. I'm sure. Like, I don't know. I think it's a little early, and maybe that number change is just going to make him more comfortable. Maybe it's going to just put him in a better mindset. But I don't think it's going to make a big difference, but it might. I mean, like you said, like that mindset of just wearing a number you're comfortable with could be the difference between, having the confidence to make a play and not. So we'll see.
I see. We making Vincent mad. I'm not trying to make you mad, Vincent. I'm not. I'm not. He says the team is Aaron Rodgers. What are you talking about? Okay, I'll indulge you. I'm always up for a good conversation. I'll indulge you. The team is Aaron Rodgers, according to you. So he talked about the team because the team is Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is the team, right? But that team did not win anything since they lost the run game, right? And if you don't believe me, let's go through and take a little bit of an exploration to it. The year that they ended up getting a run game late in December that carried over through the playoffs and into the Super Bowl, they won it. But look at all the years after that, right? So if Calvin Johnson would have went to this team, a team who, if I'm not mistaken, went 6-9-1 under him in 2018. Is that all on the quarterback? No. There are these particular rhetoric that people spew out that don't make sense. No one player is the team. Peyton Manning was not the team of the freaking Colts. They had a Hall of Fame running back, two of them, Edgerrin James and Falk. They had Hall of Fame receivers, and they had Hall of Fame defensive players, and they still only got to that promised land to get that win one time. It's a team sport, bro. I don't care who the person is. One person is not the team. That's like saying Barry was the Lions. If that's the case, then the organization did it wrong that year. Because if Barry was just the Lions, then we sucked. Because it should have been more than just Barry. And if Aaron Rodgers is just the Packers, they definitely suck because they went 6-9-1 with this belief. Not to mention, because everybody like to try to point to the other team's quarterback. A guy throws for 4,442 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, but lead the league in throwaways because he did not like his head coach. Let's talk about it. Like, seriously. He didn't like his head coach. And so he directly sabotaged his own team by throwing the ball away or changing plays, which if you don't believe me, go and watch the Pat McAfee show. He talked about it. Oh, by the way, that quarterback that you're trying to talk about and say that Calvin had these problems with, that same quarterback praised number 9. Why y'all do this?
Mm-hmm.
I got receipts. When I talk, I got receipts. That's why I tell people to do their research. Because when I talk, I got receipts.
Yeah. Let's see. One funky Lions fan says, if the D line can eat up blocks, any coverage linebacker can get you sacks. So you don't need a guy who is only a downhill rusher linebacker. I think that's true. I think those linebackers have a place in the NFL. I think a blitzing linebacker or a pass rushing linebacker has its place and has its value. But I think to say any linebacker could get you sacks if the defensive line eats up blocks isn't necessarily true. But I would say it's much easier to find a pass rushing linebacker than a linebacker that can cover in the NFL. So, Looney Tunes.
Can I put this out here really quick? I just want to put this out here. Vincent, because and Ryder can contest to this. Everybody in the chat will tell you I'm not BSing you. And this is not me trying to come directly at you or hit you. I am always about the open conversation. I am more than willing to get you on my channel to air out any grievances, and we have a conversation about it respectfully, and I'll show you why your thought process is 100% inaccurate. I'm more than willing to get you on there.
Yeah.
I'm more than willing. Just hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on my Discord. All you gotta do is say, I'm Vincent Bridgeford, and I want to come on the show and talk about Stafford and the Lions and stuff. And I'm gonna get you on. I promise you. I'm not there to belittle you or to make you look bad, but to have the conversation. And I'm telling you, when we have the conversation, I'm gonna come with receipts. You need to come with receipts, because when you don't come with receipts, I'm telling you, then at that point, I'm not making you look bad. You make yourself look bad. You got to come prepared, because anything you bring up, I'm going to have a receipt for it. So please hit me up. I will get you on. We'll talk about it. If you want to tell me why Stafford sucks and Jared Goff is great, we can go down that road. If you want to tell me why the Lions, why people retired on the Lions and all this other stuff, even though Calvin had already said that he wanted to retire due to injuries and he was just tired and football wasn't fun for him no more, but we're going to just blame it on the fact that it was Stafford. We can talk about that too. So hit me up and I'll get you on.
Well, I am certainly looking forward to that one. I think that'll be fun. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's all we got for today. Comps are slowing down a little bit. We just crossed that 2-hour mark. So I think that's what we're going to call it for today. Look forward to seeing Vincent and Luke duke it out in a what would it be? A argument, a debate, whatever you want to call it. I look forward to that one. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you all for coming out to the stream. Thank you all for tuning in. We got up to 40 viewers, so that was a pretty good turnout. I was happy to talk football with you guys on Easter Sunday. Again, hope you all enjoyed your Easter. Hope you guys enjoy the holidays with some good food and some quality family time. With that, I will turn it over to Luke if he has any final thoughts.
Oh, man, listen. First of all, I appreciate you for coming on and letting me come on and talk a little football and enjoying it. You was just I'm talking about like gasoline, volcano, center of the earth, the sun. You was on fire. Piece after piece after piece of just facts that was being dropped, that was making it hard for people to argue with it. And as much as they would like to do it, you brought receipts. I tell everybody, bring a receipt to the party, because if you don't, you just might find out that what you said ain't gonna have that much weight. So to you, sir, I say salute. And me, I like to end everything on a more positive note. So today's positive note comes directly from me. It's Sunday. Most of us ain't got to work. For those who do got to work, call somebody and just tell them I love you. Don't take much. 3 little words got so much power behind it. And then once you tell that person I love you, find a stranger and say, you don't know me, but I love you and you are appreciated. And just walk off. Watch how it spread out like a wildfire, people. Just watch how it spread out. And that's always, don't be no chump, please. Please do your research.